Welcome to the PAFnow Operational Excellence, or OPEX Edition demo. Over the course of this video, I will give an overview and explain the highlights of the Operational Excellence Edition. To start, let me briefly introduce you to the process you see on the screen to give a little bit more context. The data you see in this report is drawn from a purchase-to-pay process. Typically, a purchase-to-pay process begins with the creation of a purchase order, then proceeds to several approval levels, then the goods are received, and a few days later the invoice is posted, and in the end the invoice is paid for that purchase order. This process can be analyzed by using our PAFnow Process Explorer, the visual that is centered and most prominent on our discovery page. In addition to the Process Explorer, you will see several other visuals and KPIs on this page. In the upper right corner, we have the average lead time of all of the cases that complete this process. From creation of purchase order until pay invoice, it takes 30 days, 9 hours, 49 minutes, and 47 seconds on average. Below that lead time, you'll see the number of cases and variants that are currently selected in our data, with 965 cases and 61 variants. Since we do not have any active filters right now, the report shows cases and variants for the complete dataset. Below the case and variant meters, you will see the variant filter. Finally, in the bottom right, you have a tree map, clustered by document type, and all the way down you have a couple additional features, which I will come back to. To start discovering your process, you can increase the complexity, meaning show more variants of your process, by moving the slider on the bottom of the Process Explorer to the right. Let's do this and move the slider to the far right. Now we will see something we call the spaghetti picture. This is what the complete picture of your whole process with every single case out of your 965 cases looks like. To start, let's take a look at the beginning of the process. When I zoom in here, I see that the process not only starts with the creation of a purchase order, but there are also variants which start with creation of purchase requisition or with the creation of shopping cart. I can also use the slider to decrease the complexity again, so we take away the most frequent variants. When I move the edge of the slider from the left to the right, I change the graph so I can only see the less frequent variants displayed. I can also grab the center of the slider and move it so that I see different sections of variants. The Process Explorer makes it easy for customers getting used to discovering the process, and so that they can see new things in the process. If I don't want to use the slider, I can also use the variant filter on the right to make it a little bit more precise when I analyze the variants. I'll select the very first variant, which is our most common variant. And there you see the most common variant. I can also drag over multiple variants to select the first 4, and when I do this, you see that the rest of the page will filter accordingly. We can also use the tree map and filter the complete process. For example, when you are an employee in the division who's responsible for document type NB, then I can just filter the page by that document type. Let me clear my variant filter, and now I see that I have 900 out of 965 cases and 59 variants out of 61 variants in this one document type. So now that I've done some analysis on this page, there are filters applied. I can actually take those filters and bring them with me to another page. To do this, we'll right-click on the drill through button in the bottom right. Then we go to drill through, and we can just choose our destination page. In this case, we want to go to the monitoring page. By just clicking on monitoring, it takes the filter for the document type NB to the monitoring page. Now, when we think of operational excellence, it is very important that we monitor and spot where we have issues in our process. On the monitoring page, we see 6 major KPIs that are very important for a process. The 3 KPIs on top are more case-related, whereas the 3 KPIs on the bottom half are more process-related KPIs. Let me explain to you in detail what KPIs we have and what they mean. The top left KPI shows us the actual cost of our process monthly. We can see that we have a cost of €502 in the current month. Compared to the previous month, we have reduced our costs by €105. This is an improvement, and therefore this KPI is tinted green. These KPI cards use different colors to signal the different statuses of the KPIs. The next KPI tells us the number of open cases in total, and it is marked gray. This KPI differs from the last because it's not just showing the open cases in this month, but the total number of open cases. From an operational perspective, it would make sense I am interested in all open cases that I have for my dataset. Right now, there are 95 open cases, and out of these 95 open cases, I have 36 overdue cases in total. As you can see, the open cases KPI is marked gray, whereas the actual cost KPI is marked green. The difference is that for the open cases, we use a static benchmark instead of a monthly comparison. The benchmark is 100 cases, so when we are close to 100 cases but not over it, it's fine but not great, which results in the gray. If the open cases were way below 100, this would also be green, and if it was beyond 100, then it would turn red. For the overdue cases KPI, we also have a static benchmark, and we are very far away from this benchmark, and therefore it's green. However, we still have 36 overdue cases in total, which is something that we should try to avoid. There is something we can specifically do in PAFnow and Power BI to help with these open cases that I will show you later. In the meantime, let's interpret these three KPIs on the bottom. So here I see cases with long lead time, which is 14.29%, and this is again the value of the current month as compared to the value of the previous month. I see that this month I reduced my proportion of long-running cases by 12.4%. And similar to those cases with long lead time, I have 14.29% cases with many process steps. But again, compared to the previous month, I've reduced it by 25.7%. This is the reason why this KPI is green, because we are below the benchmark of the previous month. In contrast, the unique variance KPI is red because we have increased our unique variance this month from 0% last month to 50% this month. Now we have a clear understanding about our monitoring process, so let's again take the filter that we have set on the discovery page with me via the drill through function. This time, we want to jump to the case overview page. Often our customers need lists that they can easily work on and have a to-do list where they can see which are the cases that are most important or urgent. Here we have a simple case overview page which is now sorted by case ID. As you can see, there is the purchase order ID, material group, order reference, and so on. We also see the attribute that tells us whether this is an overdue case or an open case. Let's utilize this and sort it by overdue. Now I have a list sorted by overdue status. When you compare case ID 1 with the other overdue cases, we see that the lead time of 401 days, we might be able to deduce that this case is urgent time-wise. However, when we check the invoice volume for case 1, it's only €764, so maybe this is not so important money-wise. In contrast, when we check case ID number 31 with an invoice volume of €48,000, but only a lead time of 38 days, maybe this is more important money-wise, but not so urgent time-wise. So, there you can see we have a nice easy to work with list. PAFnow can even help improve this by helping you to cluster and aggregate it the right way so that you can prioritize according to your needs. Let me show you how this looks by jumping to the First Time Right page. The First Time Right page is one of the highlight pages of the PAFnow Operational Excellence Edition. Let me start with making this visual on the left a spotlight. This table you see has a similar picture as on the case overview, but in a nicely aggregated way. Typically, when you start doing process mining, you cluster your cases by variance. So you see the most frequent variant is the variant with the most cases, and then the second variant is the second most frequent number of cases. Only looking at the number of cases, though, won't tell me whether this is important or urgent. So I can also easily use another sorting criteria with the same clustering, but now let's sort it according to duration. This might be my priority now to work on the cases according to the longest duration. Additionally, I can also sort it by cost. Now I have a nice correlation where I can easily spot differences between invoice volume, duration, and the frequency of cases. For example, in variant 50, we only have one case with a long duration and around €64,000. I also see variant 20 with 4 cases, a long duration, and high invoice volume. This table is a really easy way to aggregate and sort my data, but it's not the only thing I can do on this page. Let me remove the spotlight and show you the complete picture of this page. What we want to do in operational excellence is to work on open cases, so let me filter the open cases, and then the most important and urgent cases are of course cases that are overdue. So I filter for open cases and overdue cases. Now the page is filtered accordingly. Let me again set my prioritization according to duration. I can check variant 47 with one case, and when I click on it, you will see the rest of my page is filtered again. We see down here in the PAFnow root cause analyzer that the overdue urgency is 100% to act now. I can also select variant 41, and then we will see also that the overdue urgency is 100% to act now. Now let us choose variant 14. When I select this, we see that the overdue urgency is 100% at risk instead of just act now. I can compare the variants and cases I've selected with the process model in the middle. For variant 14, we see that the purchase order was created, the approval is done, and the goods are delivered, but that there's no invoice. That's all that's missing. Let's jump to variant 13, which is in the overdue urgency category, Act Now. In variant 13, I can also see what is missing to close this case. Now we have the creation of the purchase order, it was approved, the goods were delivered, and the invoice is already posted, but then the case ran into a payment block. This is probably due to some automated system based on invoice volume. To close this case, we need to remove the payment block and pay the invoice. We can easily visualize what our 2B model would be with the PAFnow conformance check. So let's quickly just go into that and I'll explain to you what it does. By clicking on the icon in the top right of the Process Explorer, I can show you the 2B model we implemented within this Process Explorer. We say a process is conforming when it started with the creation of a purchase order, when the approvals happened, then the goods received was posted, the invoice was posted, the set payment block, then the payment block was finally removed, and the invoice paid. This 2B process model can also be easily adjusted from this view right here by clicking some edge or node and marking it as non-conforming. That will remove it from my 2B model. I can easily compare my real data with this 2B model. For the open cases, the Process Explorer easily indicates to me what already happened in our cases by marking it green. The red edges and nodes are parts of my process that are not conforming. Here the edge from set payment block to end is red because that's not what we want to end on. Yellow are the steps that are skipped and expected from our 2B model. For this one variant, we have one case ID, which is 746. Now when I'm in operational excellence, then I'm interested in having the previously discussed case overview table not only in PAFnow, but also externally after I export it from PAFnow. To do that, I can just type in my email address and send an email to myself containing that table. Now I jump to my email inbox and there it is. You can see the case I selected, case 746, and all of its attributes. This could act like a to-do list for me. To work on this, I could go directly to my ERP system. Now I can work on the cases in my ERP system, but we can also work on it from within PAFnow. With my Step 2 visual, I do not even have to go to my ERP system. I can directly execute what is missing out of PAFnow. Let me show you how it works. So I just select the purchase order ID that I would like to close or where I would like to execute the two activities of removing a payment block and paying an invoice. I can type in my email address again to get it started. This time my email is used as an approval step, so the system knows that I am allowed to remove the payment block and pay the invoice. Let's click on Close Case. When I do this, it takes this purchase order ID, goes to my ERP system, checks whether this is eligible for payment and whether I'm allowed to do it. And once it's done, I will receive a notification. And there it is. Now I have refreshed my data, Remember that this was case 746 we just took care of. Because I've refreshed the data and reset the filters, this case will no longer show up because now it's paid. And with that final useful feature, I will conclude the demo of the PAFnow OPEX Edition. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at PAFnow anytime.